Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of Golden Era.
By now, the Kargil crisis was nearing the end. Having been caught off guard, India's initial response had been limited.
People do ask that how did the enemy manage to get in? And yes, there were problems. But when the enemy has the initiative, when it takes the initiative as it did this time, he is bound to try and surprise you. He is bound to do something which is unexpected. So it is not how you start the war which is important. What is important is how you end up in a war.
So by the beginning of July, militarily and diplomatically, Pakistan had been pushed into a corner. Internationally isolated by most of the civilized world, Nawaz Sharif had no choice but to rush, hat in hand, to Washington for a face-saving solution. But despite hectic lobbying, all Clinton could offer him was a peaceful withdrawal. In Kargil, Tiger Hill now remained Pakistan's most obvious symbol of occupation and pride. General Pervez Musharraf had called its defense the mother of all battles.
So Tiger Hill, the importance, if you see it from Dras, it just stands out. The importance, nobody has to explain it to you as to what is the importance of that feature. 8 Sikh, which was launched again sometimes in May, in the middle of May, had succeeded in isolating Tiger Hill from 3 directions. But they were not, they had not succeeded in isolating him from the western side. So the complete western flank was open for him to bring out his logistics, his supplies, and maintain this force which was on Tiger Hill.
The Indian Air Force had spent days wreaking havoc on the hill.
I must mention Tiger Hill. I have spoken about innovations. Tiger Hill is a unique case where it was difficult to attack the target as we could see it, and we couldn't see very much. We were in the business of trying out a particular weapon system for acquisition into our Air Force. And we decided then and there that if we have to try it out, why not try it out in real life? We got this weapon system, we hit Tiger Hill, and I think we hit the target very accurately, very well.
And then the ground forces went into action. As legend has it, Karpuchu, or White Water as Tiger Hill is called locally, is a hill not to be climbed by man. Whoever dares to conquer its heights will be punished by the gods, they say. It is this proud feature that the 8 Sikhs surrounded in the 3rd week of May.
With just about 2 days of acclimatization and hardly any special clothing, my battalion was launched on 15th May to clear Tiger Hill, point 4460 and point 4195. Point 4460 and point 4195 were cleared by 17th morning. On 18th morning, when an attempt was made to capture Tiger Hill from southern slopes, where you see those 2 small snow patches, the company came under very heavy enemy fire. In this attempt, 1 JCO and 2 other ranks died on the spot, and about 18 other ranks were badly wounded.
At the time of the attack of Tiger Hill, when this casualty came, named Lance Naik Kashmir Singh, his hand was cut off because of the splinter. So I started doing the dressing and giving him the necessary medication. While doing that, I was busy in doing that, and he was bleeding profusely. So I didn't know that he is going in shock because it was consuming a lot of time. Then I asked him, well, what is the time? He himself replied that मेरे जो कटे हुए हाथ है उस पे जो घड़ी बंधी है उस पे देख लो. He was so courageous, and he said, only you give me some painkiller. I only require painkiller. I'm okay. I'm just okay. And he was carrying his hand along with him.
The 18 grenadiers had been rested after their siege of Tululing and their capture of Hump and were eager to get back into action.
We planned the capture of Tiger Hill on night 3rd, 4th, and 18 grenadiers which had been used earlier, after I think about 10-12 days of rest, we gave them this task of going for Tiger Hill. And the plan was to attack Tiger Hill from 3 directions. 2 of the directions were extremely difficult. Like I mentioned, the gradient was something about 70-75 degrees. Loose stones, loose gravel, and finally when they reached the top, it was a vertical, more or less a vertical climb. They had to throw ropes to get onto the top. And that is where Grenadier Yoginder Singh got his Paramveer Chakra.
Colonel Kushal Thakur, the heroic commanding officer of the 18 Grenadiers, was itching to get back into the field.
ये जो हमला हमने टाइगर हिल पे 3 और 4 की जून की रात को किया, ये 3 तरफ से किया गया था. जैसे कि आप देख रहे हैं कि जो टाइगर हिल टॉप है उसकी तरफ से 3 जो ढलान आ रही हैं. एक सबसे जो दाहिनी वाली ढलान है नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न ढलान, यहाँ से मेरे जो घातक थे और चार्ली कंपनी, घातक कैप्टन बलवान के नीचे और जो चार्ली कंपनी मेजर गुप्ता और मेजर मजार के नीचे, और जो बीच वाला जो रिज आप देख रहे हैं इसमें डेल्टा कंपनी जो कि मेजर निवालकर के नीचे, और जो सबसे बाएं वाला रिज जो आप देख रहे हैं जिसमें काफ़ी बर्फ़ भी है, अल्फा कंपनी इस रिज पे गई थी मेजर रणधीर राठौर के नीचे.
Tiger Hill was the ideal objective for the Indian Army to completely break Pakistani morale and convince the world that they were finally in control of the heights. General Puri had brought in the 192 Brigade with Brigadier MPS Bajwa exclusively for the capture of this feature.
I remember on the evening of 26th when I arrived there, had a look at the Tiger Hill, a very majestic feature, and just uttered those lines and prayed to Shiva, asking him, De Shiva bar mohi hai, shubh karman te kabhu na taru, na taru aur so jab jaye laru, nischay kar apni jeet karu. Probably I had no problem, I had no fear, I had total confidence that I will capture Tiger Hill. Plan was to achieve surprise and deception. I had asked for the simulation of feint attacks from the southwestern and western direction, even using 17 yards, which were in area of southeast of the 48.4875, thus giving impression to the enemy that probably they are going to be attacked from the southwestern direction.
This plan was brilliant. On 2 sides of Tiger Hill, the 8th Sikh would start a build-up of troops. Near the Sando, one company was to start building a bridge. These were decoy tactics to deceive the enemy. On the morning before, the 8th Sikh started giving bogus attack plans on radio frequencies which they knew were monitored by the Pakistanis. When the attack started, it was from areas least expected. The weather was bad that night. Snow and rain had made the steep climb even more difficult. But it also helped the Ghataks achieve an element of surprise. Preoccupied with simulated attacks on the other side, pounded with artillery fire, the Pakistanis were unaware of the assault on their northeastern slopes until it was too late. One company of Ghataks under Havaldar Madan reached the top in the early hours of the 5th of June.
5 तारीख की सुबह जब इनके ऊपर काउंटर अटैक आया इन लड़कों के ऊपर, और ये आखिरी दम तक टॉप पे लड़ते रहे, और जिसमें ये 6 के 6 जवान, जिसमें कि शामिल हवलदार मदन, ये शहीद हो गए. और ये जो लड़का था ग्रेनेडियर योगेंद्र, जिसे कि 15 गोलियां लगी, ये लड़ता रहा और आखिर तक अपनी जगह इसने नहीं छोड़ी, और अपने घातक प्लाटून कमांडर को आगाह किया कि जो दुश्मन है, अभी जो दूसरी टीम थी घातक की, उनकी तरफ भी काउंटर अटैक करने वाला है, और जिसकी वजह से हम जो है सिचुएशन को संभाल सके, उसके दुश्मन के ऊपर आर्टिलरी फायर ला सके और हम अपनी जगह पर डटे रहे।
The bravery of Yoginder Yadav knew no bounds that night. This tiger truly conquered the hill that morning.
तो ऊपर जाने के बाद दुश्मन के काफ़ी काउंटर अटैक्स इस घातक की टीम के ऊपर आए और ये लड़के को 15 गोली लगने के बाद भी ये आखिरी समय तक लड़ता रहा। और जबकि हम इसको इवैक्यूएट करना चाहते थे इलाज के लिए और इसने मना कर दिया कि नहीं, मैं इस समय जगह को नहीं छोड़ सकता हूँ। और घातक प्लाटून कमांडर के कहने पे भी ये लड़का वापस नहीं आया और आखिरी समय तक वहाँ पे लड़ता रहा।
With 15 bullets in him, Yadav rolled himself down to where Lieutenant Balwan was waiting with another company, warning him of the enemy's counter-attack. Balwan also had been injured by a splinter blast.
जो आगे टाइगर हिल टॉप पर लीड कर रहा था वो ग्रेनेडियर योगेंद्र सिंह यादव, जिसने पूरी प्लाटून को चढ़ाने में मदद की और हम टाइगर हिल टॉप को कब्जाने में सफल हुए।
Winning the hill for India, Yadav was awarded the nation's highest battle honor, the Param Veer Chakra. Lieutenant Balwan received a Mahavir Chakra for his part in the victory. His company commander, Captain Nimbalkar, was given a Veer Chakra, and their commanding officer, the valiant Kushal Thakur, received a Yudh Seva medal.
Fantastic piece of operation, and I think it is an example of human endurance, skill, mountaineering skills, stamina, bravery, everything, which whatever one likes to say would be less as far as this operation on Tiger Hill was concerned.
But though the hill was taken, the victory was not complete. The Pakistanis would not let go. For 3 days, they continued to counter-attack the hill from the India Gate, Helmet and Collar areas. Led by Captain Karnal Sher, attack after brave attack was repelled by the 8th Sikh and the 18 Grenadiers. So impressed with Karnal Sher Khan's bravery were the Indian officers that Colonel Thakur described this gallantry to the press. Based on these reports, Sher Khan was given Pakistan's highest military honor, the Nishan-e-Haidar. Had Thakur not spoken, no one would have known. Perhaps it is this sense of dignity and honor which distinguishes the Indian officer and soldier from fighting forces around the world. And so on the 9th of July, the entire Tiger Hill finally came under the sway of the Indian flag.
I came to know of Tiger Hill being captured early morning at about 5:30. Krishan Pal rang me up and he said, "Sir, Tiger Hill has been captured." So I asked him, I said, "Is it captured or is some fighting still going on?" So he said, "No, the fighting is still going on, but I know that it's in our hands. We will not permit anybody to come there." By then, these boys from 18 Grenadiers had reached the top and they were sitting there. The firing continued for quite some time. There was a lot of hand-to-hand fighting there. By about 6:30 or 7, I think they were very clear. GOC 3 Mountain Dew also rang me up by then. So the Tiger Hill is in our hands. It was a great feeling, you know. I think this was something which the whole nation was waiting for. I rang up Prime Minister's house. He was to go and address some rally somewhere. And I was asked if he could announce that. And I said, yes, why not? But I think the Raksha Mantri, he announced it first. When I told him, he was in Amritsar that day. And soon after my telephone call to him, he probably had some journalists around him, and he broke the news that we had captured Tiger Hill.
On the 7th of July, a group of film stars and theatre people were in Kargil to cheer their troops. A war-weary General Kishanpal took this opportunity to make a special announcement.
The depth and resilience of Indian Army is here to see last of the intruders from the Batalik Yaldor sector has been kicked out. We have not given them a chance to withdraw because that would have saved their face. Right in front of you is a Stinger missile, one piece of which we have recovered from point 5827, which was captured day before yesterday night. I just brought it.
This is a Pakistani weapon?
It is an American weapon system which was with them. This is what they were using against our aircraft. This is loaded, ready to fire.
The Chief of Army flew in to congratulate officers in Baitalik. And even as operations in Tiger Hill and Baitalik were progressing, the last crucial feature of Pakistani dominance was being cleared by soldiers of 3 Indian battalions in the Mashko Valley.
The plans were made to capture point 4875 with 3 battalions, 17 Jat, 13 Jackrif and 2 Nagas. On 4th July, 17 Jat and 13 Jackrif were launched in phase 1 of the brigade operations. 17 Jat was tasked to capture Pimple complex, which consisted of Pimple 1, Pimple 2 and Whaleback.
The task of capturing the top of 4875 was given to the 13 Jack.
Point 4875 was a massive feature. You see, this is the top of point 4875, and to the west of it was the area of Whaleback and Pimple, which 17 Jat was tasked to capture. And further linking up point 4875, going to the northeast was the area of Rocky Knob, and further, connecting it to the Tiger Hill. So 13 Jack was to capture 4875, 17 Jat simultaneously to capture the area of Whaleback and Pimple complex, and later 2 Naga was to capture the area of Twin Bumps and beyond. As per plan, on 4th of July, 2 of my companies, Alpha and Charlie, under Major S. Vijay Bhaskar and Major Gurpreet Singh, we launched the attack for the capture of point 4875. Now the terrain in the area of point 4875 was very bad. The gradient was not less than 70 to 80 degrees. So the movement was very slow.
But the assault which started at night was not an easy one. The terrain was difficult. Enemy fire was devastating. After the first few hundred yards, the advance of Company Commander Major Gurpreet Singh grounded to a halt.
At first light, on the 5th of July, both the companies were not able to reach the objective, were not able to capture the top of point 4875. And a ding-dong battle continued. At roughly around 10 o'clock, Major Gurpreet Singh, the company commander, he came on the net and explained to me that they were not able to move at all because the enemy was bringing down very effective fire onto them in that area, since he was sitting in a very dominating position. And he told me that the moment one Jawan also moves in that area, he brings down sniper fire and we suffer a casualty. So we had a faggot launcher in the fire base. I was sitting in the fire base. So once Gurpreet explained to me that which was the Sangha from where the enemy was bringing down effective fire, I fired a faggot missile onto that objective. Now Gurpreet and his company were there just below that, so they could not see the effect the missile had onto their enemy there. I could see that the missile has hit accurately, but what effect it has had on the enemy, I could not make out. However, the 17 Jat troops who were there in the area of Whaleback, they saw some movement behind that Sangha and saw some people running away, probably some casualties had occurred there. And they told the CO, who was in coming with the commander, told the commander that there's a movement there, and the commander 79 Brigade Kakkar. Luckily this communication took place, and he told me on the net straight away, Bete, your missile has a very good effect, the enemy is running from there, fire another one. So I immediately set the launcher again, fired another missile to the same area, which was again a hit, luckily, and taking advantage of the situation, I told Gurpreet to immediately launch the assault. And he did a good job, immediately launched his company, and he was able to capture both point 4875 and the area of Flat Top, which were the 2 objectives in the area.
It was in this assault that Rifleman Sanjay Kumar displayed exemplary courage. He led the charge on the Flat Top. Injured and bleeding, he refused to be evacuated, assaulting bunker after bunker until the flat top was firmly in Indian hands, winning the Paramveer Chakra from a grateful nation. The 13 Jack set a record in the annals of military history when it became the only unit to win a second Paramveer Chakra for the assault of the same feature as brave young Vikram Batra, codenamed Sher Shah, died while assaulting the ledge which connected 4875 to the twin bump. Meanwhile, in a simultaneous action, the brave Jats had assaulted the Whaleback and Pimple complex. Whaleback was crucial to the enemy as it was the route for supplies and reinforcement for 4875 and Pimple too. 3 fierce counter-attacks were beaten back by Baba's men. Baba took another 24 hours to build up ammunition for a final attack on Pimple too. As the attack was about to start, his company commander was injured and firing. The command now passed to a very young brave officer, Captain Anuj Nayyar. Unmindful of his personal safety, Nayyar led a heroic charge up the hill, destroying 3 MMG positions, killing 9 enemy soldiers. While clearing the 4th enemy position, his luck ran out. He was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade and succumbed on the spot. Engaged to a pretty girl from Delhi, Anuj was to be married later that year in September. At home in Delhi a few months earlier, he had personally chosen clothes for his young bride-to-be. Getting himself a sherwani stitched for the happy occasion, he had worn it to show his mother. But the joy of this young couple was to be sacrificed on the altar of the motherland.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning that time. His buddy told him, "Okay, sir, don't stand like this. It's almost daytime now. Let's get behind some cover." That is the time he showed his hand to his buddy. He says, "I've got a very long life and nothing will happen to me." And just about 2 seconds after that, he was hit by a RPG round on his neck and he died on the spot. And one more thing, before he went for the attack, I don't know what was there in his mind. He had the engagement ring with him. He had his beautiful watch with him. He took out both these things and gave it to me. He said, "Sir, when I come back, I'll take it from you because I don't know what is going to happen." Probably he knew what is going to happen, and those 2 things, of course, were sent back to his parents thereafter.
Strange are the ways of fate. Colonel Y.K. Joshi recalls a bizarre twist of destiny which killed a Pakistani soldier.
Just to give you an example of destiny, how things take place in battle. I reached point 4875 top. The 17 Jat had not yet been able to capture the area of Whaleback and Pimple complex, but now we were in a dominating position and overlooking the Whaleback and Pimple complex. There I could see a Pakistani bunker Sangha made in that area, and since we had a faggot launcher, I decided to destroy that Sangha with the help of this faggot missile. So I laid my missile and I was looking through a telescope at that Sangha, and when I was about to fire, I saw one Pakistani coming out of the Sangha and immediately go out. So I said, "Guy is lucky, his life is saved." But I still fired the missile. The missile went accurately and hit the Sangha. Sangha was partially destroyed. I was not satisfied. So I said, "Let me fire another missile." I loaded another missile, and when I was about to fire, I saw the same person go back inside. Probably he wanted to take out something, salvage something out of the Sangha, knowing that now the bunker is destroyed, nothing will happen. The moment he entered the Sangha, my missile entered right behind him, killing him on the spot.
The 3rd Battalion that had been deployed in Mashko for this attack was the 2 Naga. Fearless and bold, these soldiers under Colonel Badola were tasked to capture the ridge line between Tiger Hill and point 4875. In an action that was a credit to their reputation, these men captured their objective in a swift attack, bringing the entire 4875 complex under the Indian Army. The capture of this complex had extracted a heavy price. Youngsters maimed, youngsters killed, adolescent widows, heartbroken fiancés were all part of the legacy of 4875. Captain Jerry Premraj, a young artillery officer with the 2 Naga, took a bullet in his head on the 7th of June.
I first met Jerry when he was commissioned in our regiment in September 1997. Jerry had got married on April 22nd, and right from the day of his engagement, anything he used to discuss with me was about his then fiancée, and everything was centered around her. He was very fond of calling her up and was an STD PCO's dream come true. He was an FO with the 2 Naga regiment, which launched the assault for capture of Twin Bump. It was there where he died on 7th July at about 8 a.m. I went to take his body from the brigade headquarters, and I met Adjutant 2 Naga. Adjutant 2 Naga, once I told him about Jerry and he'd got married recently and other things, he said that there was one thing that Jerry told me before going, one day just before going, when he saw this photograph of Hanifuddin School where children were praying for him. He said, "Sir, if I die, people in my school will also pray for me because I'm the only one from that school who's made it to an officer in the army."
Not only his school, the whole country mourned Jerry's death as this brave artillery officer was given a Veer Chakra. His young bride has released a book of poems called Warm Tears on Jerry's first death anniversary on the 7th of July 2000.
This brave young officer sacrificed his life for this grateful nation. And in the highest traditions of the Indian Army, that the safety, honor, and welfare of our country comes first, always and everywhere. As also in the highest tradition of the gunners, Sarvatra Izzato Iqbal.
By now, complete demoralization had set into Pakistani ranks. So when, at the behest of President Clinton, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif declared an unconditional withdrawal, he actually saved his country from the ignominy of an absolute rout. From the US, Sharif flew to London and Jeddah before he returned to Islamabad to explain the disaster to his people. But what was frightening was that while the Prime Minister was desperately trying to salvage some shreds of self-respect from his diplomatic and military failures, his irresponsible general continued making bizarre statements.
It's a great military success. It's a great success by the Mujahideen, and our action on the line of control have been extremely successful. All their actions to come across the line of control has been foiled, and therefore I would say as far as the army is concerned, it's a great success, because we did not allow any ingress by the Indians across the line of control. It has been a great success by the Mujahideen, who caused all the damage and who operated across the line of control.
But what could be said of an army commander who refused to accept, let alone honor, his own dead?
I think it was most disappointing, disgusting, and disgraceful to see the enemy not claiming his bodies, his dead bodies. For anyone in uniform, I think it's a matter of honor to retrieve your dead. And since they hadn't done it, then we made sure that we buried their dead with full military honors and the dignity which a dead body in uniform deserves.
It was only after India showed Pakistani bodies being buried by Indian soldiers every second day on television that internal pressure within that country forced the Pakistani government to accept a few dead bodies. Finally, the 50-day horror was coming to an end.
You know, when they started withdrawing, I didn't quite believe that they will withdraw from every location. And I suspected that close to the line of control, there may be some trouble. And that is what happened. There were 3 places, one in Batalik, one in Dras, and one in Mashko, where they held on, and there were no indications, despite our telling them, there were no indications that they were going to vacate. So there was a gap of a few days, and then ultimately we had to give them a notice. And after warning, I remember, we attacked all these 3 features. We captured these features. And in the bargain, they lost some people, and so did we.
What was expected from them, they did not do. Instead, they laid large number of mines, and as also occupied some positions of tactical advantage.
Eventually, victory was achieved. The Indian soldiers' spirit of sacrifice had finally triumphed.
As far as overcoming the enemy on the heights, the biggest factor that contributed was the Indian soldier was able to close in at these heights and to take on casualties and still get onto the top. It was an aspect I think he didn't count on, because in this day of, or in this era of body bag shyness, which other armies are exhibiting, Indian Army did exhibit that it can take its share of casualties and can close in on the enemy to evict him from that high heights.
At last, the guns were silent. Both countries had paid a heavy price in blood, for these arid stretches of uninhabited, inhospitable mountain ranges. India won the war in Kargil, but it also won another victory, perhaps a greater victory.
The victory really was a victory of human spirit. I think the men did extremely well. The way they climbed up to those features for hand-to-hand fighting. I don't think anywhere in the world people have fought with such spirit. And hats off to the Indian soldier and the Indian officer who leads him from the front. I really cannot say enough in their praise. And one is very proud of being head of the organization where you have people like them.
This document then is a tribute to this soldier and to this spirit born of sacrifice that has perhaps been the greatest moment in our recent history. To those who fought, to those who died, we dip our flag in tribute. In memoriam, Lieutenant Colonel R. Vishwanathan, Major C.B. Dwivedi, Major Rajesh Adhikari, Major Vivek Gupta, Captain Hanifuddin, Captain Vijayan Thapar.
कितनी